Hello everyone, and welcome to the second session. This is the Arise from the Ashes Summit, and this is our last session for the 2 day summit. Thank you again to everyone who has joined us so far. It's really been a pleasure. It's been a delightful. It's been delightful sessions from yesterday, 2 sessions, and today we just had Fumi Ajayobe speaking to us on nutrition. Thank you everyone for joining us so far. Thank you. Right, we're going to go quickly into the next session, and I will be speaking on self management. I'll be talking to us on self management. What do I mean by self management? Self management after cancer treatment. So, if you just bear with me, I'm going to share my screen quickly as we go into the session and what we have for for us. Fantastic. Okay, so self management. Um, and for our self management today, we will have you know, so for self management, we recognize. Sorry, I'm going back to the first screen. We recognize that after after the period, the period after your hospital-based treatment. So you have been receiving treatment from the hospital, you have different people supporting you, you have been attending hospital appointments, you've been going for treatment. So there's been engagement, you know, there's so much has been happening with you. And then, suddenly you finished your treatment or you finished your treatment and everything stops. Now, this period, when it ends, can sometimes be the most difficult time, as a cancer patient. And you may want some help and you may want some support. We believe that, informing, educating people and creating awareness puts, puts us in the driving seat, and therefore we can make informed decisions about our own lives. And that is what, the Arise from the Ashes is about. That is what we have done in the last 2 days, to inform ourselves, to educate ourselves, to create the awareness, to unlearn, to those things that are not helpful for us, to learn new things. And so after a cancer diagnosis, different people at different times, people will be at different points in terms of their mental health and well being. And the truth is, no two people's experiences will be the same. No two people's experiences will be the same. And I believe, I am a believer that everyone is an expert in their emotional well being. And so, this is to encourage us to problem solve, to explore new things, as you move to and you journey through your recovery phase after, after cancer treatment. Okay, so quickly, what are we going to be talking about in this self-management approach session? So we've looked at self-management. We're going to have even talk about it a bit more. Then we look at the emotions after cancer. We'll look at grief and loss. What is it with regards to cancer? Relationships after after cancer, goal setting, um, future planning, and then we'll conclude. So tighten your seatbelts and come on this ride with me. Thank you very much. All right. So self management. Now, self management is about putting, yourself, putting you in control of your life, putting you in control of your thoughts, of your emotions, by helping you define, your problems, by setting goals and making your own plans, right? And this includes, exploring different ways, gaining skills and confidence to take charge of your needs, learning new skills and techniques to break the circle of, unhelpful patterns of thinking, unhelpful patterns of behavior, that can result, that comes from live or recovering from a health condition like cancer. Now, when you're coming to the end of of cancer treatment, like we said, or um, you are in the recovery stage, the truth is it is normal, absolutely normal, and it's expected that you will have worries, you will have concerns, you will have anxieties. You know, um, a cancer diagnosis changes everything about you. So now that you've had the treatment has ended, you're going to, these things are going to come. So taking a self-management approach, is what we're talking about, would help you, would equip you with tools, with confidence to manage them and manage those worries, manage those feelings, those thoughts, anxieties, as and when they arise. Rather than them hijack your day-to-day life, cripple it completely, it's going to help you to manage yourself, you know, from the time the treatment stops. The purpose for, you know, the purpose is for the self-management approach in this context, in the context of, you know, being a cancer patient and after cancer treatment, is to empower, is to empower you to manage your emotions and your mental well-being. Right? So we're going to move on quickly. Now, it's so important, still talking about self-management. Self-management is fundamental to cancer treatment recovery. A lot of people, you know, get a cancer diagnosis and they just get on with it. And most people are not prepared for the emotional fallout. And that's where, some people even begin to experience even more complications, more complicated problems than the cancer itself. So the self-management approach, can be a way for you to acknowledge, identify, reflect on how you're feeling so that you can begin better recognize, you begin to challenge and cope with emotions around, your post-treatment. Okay, so the first thing is, recognize your triggers, recognize what exactly, is going on with you. Some people say they don't have triggers, that the things are just there. If that doesn't apply to you, that's fine. Do you understand? It's not a one cap fits it all. It can differ from person to person. But then, if you have triggers or whatever it is that is happening with you, you're able to identify what it is. Identify if there are actions that you can take when you recognize these triggers or whatever is happening with you begins to happen, the worries, the anxiety, or whatever is going on with you. You're able to identify them. And then you reflect. You reflect and begin to work out what are the coping strategies that are best for you. You can also, when in reflecting, it helps you to recognize and you can challenge those triggers. What's going on with me? Begin to reflect. What is this? So you're reflecting, you're thinking about it, you're recognizing it, and you're challenging it. It doesn't mean you're accepting it. It doesn't mean it stays with you or sits with you. It's just empowering you to know what is happening into you, what is happening to you. And then from there you can tap into sources of support, such as peer support groups, talking to other people, like we're having this summit, getting the information, looking at how you can leverage on other people's experience, how they were able to push through whatever it is that you are going through right now. And then building ongoing coping strategies into a mental lifestyle. That is what self management is about. All right. Now, in self managing ourselves, okay, we're going to look at feelings after cancer. So, we talked about recognizing your feelings, what are they, and all of that. So, we've said there'll be feelings after your treatment, has ended. So what are you feeling? What are your feelings? What are you feeling? Why do you feel that way? And it may not just be you, it may be people around you. Okay, so one of the feelings may be expectations. Expectations that you have of yourself, expectations surrounding the end of your treatment. There might be expectations you have of how you think you might feel, the expectations of others. The most the most overriding issue that often gets talked about on this, talked about, or with experiences from cancer patients, is that most people think they will just return to normal. That's what most people think. They think, oh, they're just going to return to normal. Oh, the treatment has been done. Surgery is over. I really don't. I really don't have anything to worry. I'm just going to return to normal. I'm going to go back to work, and that you'll be the same person that you were. Now, that may be the case for some people, but the vast majority will find out that a lot has changed for them, and you no longer feel the same way, and it may take time to feel like yourself again. And it can be a hard expectation to manage, for yourself and for others. Um, other feelings, that you may find yourself having to go through is that you were not prepared for the emotional fallout that you're currently processing. Now, you're feeling weird. You may not even be able to put verbalize it or even put it into words, but you just feel that you were not prepared for all that you're feeling. Even though you're in the midst of people, you feel isolated. So the feelings of unpreparedness is there. There's also um processing what has happened. So you have feelings and you're just thinking of what has happened. And usually this doesn't happen until the end of the treatment. You begin to process what you've been through. Now, the best way I can explain it is sometimes, um, after there's been like a sort of an accident, and you look back either on the vehicle or on the situation or on the scene of the accident, and you think, is that what I went through? Sometimes it feels like that. Your mind begin to, recognize that you went through, um, you know, and you went through like a dangerous situation, and then your mind begins to deal with the emotional impact. So you're processing all that has happened. That's when it's after the treatment, after you begin to process it, and the emotions come with all of that. All right. Another feeling, that you know that one may have after cancer treatment is a fear, is the fear of recurrence. You may find that you're dealing, with this fear of recurrence. Now, as human beings, we all like certainty. You would like the doctor to tell you, or the oncologist to say, okay, it's all over now, never again. But one thing, and that's what we all hope for, that's what we pray for. But one thing is, there's usually no guarantees, particularly with cancer. And sometimes they say, sometimes it's aggressive, it's this, they've given you all the diagnosis, they've given you the statistics, maybe it was genetic, and all of that. It can be very difficult to accept, and it can lead to anxiety, if you're worrying and you're having all of those feelings. So it's good, to recognize these feelings as they come. Okay. Now, other feelings that you may be having would be feelings of grief, feelings of loss. So we really need to look at this issue of grief and loss. It's really, really important. So you're thinking grief. Well, does that is that grief because somebody died or not. No, grief isn't just about the loss of a person when they die. It can be loss of so many things. It could be grief, that you have changed, you're no longer the same person. It might be that you're grieving because of the changes of work. Maybe you can no longer go to work. Maybe you've lost relationships. Maybe, loved ones have walked out on you because of a diagnosis, or even just grieving. Maybe you had a future that you had planned out, you had worked out, and you're looking and you're thinking, is this going to be at all? Now, if someone actually lost a loved one, we wouldn't really expect them to someone who was grieving for the loss of a loved one to bounce back straight away. I mean, that's the same thing. It's the same principle because it's still grief and it's still loss. So, and I'm sure a few people can identify with that. So, grief is an entirely appropriate response, and it's a healthy one, you know, it's a healthy one so that we can start to process what impact, cancer has had on our lives. However, it can stop being, a healthy emotion if we're stuck in that place. If we're stuck in a place of grief, if we're stuck in a place of loss and we're not moving forward, you know, always reflecting what has gone and what has stopped you and all of that, it can become unhealthy. So a very good helpful exercise to start is to start accepting, these things and face them head on. Is to start accepting that yes, these things have happened. A few things have been lost along the way. You're feeling what you're feeling. Begin to accept them. And one of the things that you can do, which is the help exercise, is to set aside time to grieve. Set aside time to grieve. Yes. It may seem really strange, to begin with. It sounds a bit unnatural, but it's a good way to approach your grief. Now, I'm going to say this that I know that in our community, particularly the Black African community, it will be like, oh, get on with it. What's this? The setting aside time to grieve and all of that. Like I said, this doesn't have to, if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. But it's a really, really helpful exercise when you begin to accept these things and then setting aside time, to ponder on these things that you're grieving about. So set aside time to grieve. What do I mean? Try it for 1 week, try it for some time. So set aside a specific day, a specific time, perhaps once a week. Pick a safe time, a place. You may want to listen to music. You may want to look at photographs of you before, Just sit down and have some quiet time for yourself. Now, you can go on, if it's all right with you, write down those things you're grieving for. You've lost your hair, you've lost your person, maybe you've lost a lot of weight, you're not looking as beautiful as you were before. Write them down. You may have lost friends, you may have lost a job, or the future that you imagined yourself. Physically, write them down in as much details as you can. Then, you know, within that time, it's good when you set a specific time so that you're not in that moment for a long time. Then it begins to tend towards being unhealthy. So what I'm trying to say is that have a specific time. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. Then have a look at all the things that you have written down, right? Think about them, focus on how you're feeling about those things, and it can begin to bring some clarity. It can even begin to help you to actually, you know, see in black and white what you're thinking. Okay, right. Another thing that you can do is to keep a thought diary. Keeping a thought diary would always help us become aware of why we're feeling the way, the way we are feeling, keeping a thought diary. So keep a thought diary. You can put, like I said, write it down. You can begin to look at triggers. So what's in, begin to look at the triggers. So what was the day and the time? In identifying your thought, look at the triggers. What was the day? So what time, right? What was the situation? What brought about me thinking these thoughts? What were you thinking about that time? And where were you? So those are the triggers, helps you to identify what brought about these thoughts. And then consequences. So when you began to think about this, what emotions did you feel? How did you feel? Were you angry? Were you anxious? Were you depressed? Were you scared? What did you feel? That way you're reflecting. And then from those emotions, what did you do? What did you do about it? Now, what thoughts went through? Do you have certain beliefs? Were they positive? Were they bad? What fears did you have as those thoughts came into your mind and you were beginning to think about the positive things? Now, anxiety and worry can result in a stream, a lot, many automatic thoughts running through our minds. Sometimes we don't even know that we're thinking them. We don't, we can't even we can't even fathom that we are thinking those things, but they're very powerful. They're very powerful, and subtly, they sort of dictate, or they sort of, you know, they sort of determines what we do. It's very, very important, and it can be very helpful, so that we begin to work on our thoughts, start to control them. Let's know, why you're thinking those things, so that we don't allow things to affect us unknowingly. So write them down, reflect, and assess. Right? Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so as we, look at this self-management approach again, other things that happen after cancer is relationships after cancer. Things happen after cancer, right? Okay, so expectations of yourself. It's usual to have an expectation of yourself once treatment has ended. We know, like I said before, that everything will return to normal. But this can put a lot of pressure on yourself and lead to undue stress. Now, this is something that I experienced myself. After the treatment, I felt that this wasn't even anybody, this was myself. I felt, oh, the treatment has been done, I was fine. And, I felt everything was back to normal. But then I was struggling. But I couldn't put it into words. I couldn't verbalize it. And one of the things as well was I wasn't prepared for the emotional fallout. So I think this is very, very important for anyone maybe currently going through treatment now. Prepare yourself, arm yourself with this information, or you're in it right now, to say, don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself or undue stress on yourself at all. All right. Your body has gone through a blast. You have gone through a very, very cold time, right? Give yourself some time, give yourself some space. Now, it could also be other people's expectations. Family, friends, maybe they have expectations of how things will be after your treatment, or they have been supporting you, they have been cooking, they have been doing all manners of things, and they're thinking, wow, the treatment has ended, now everything has to stop. There could just be this conscious, unconscious pressure to be the same person that you have been, and begin to do things by yourself now. Okay, so nobody's bringing anything again, or and it can be really, really admit that you cannot do the things you used to do before, or you're the same person that you used to be before. Other scenarios could be that, the roles have changed at home. Maybe you were the breadwinner, the main caregiver, and because of your treatment, you couldn't perform that role. Now that the treatment has ended, you're expected to just step back into that role. The truth is, sometimes this, the changes may not be able to, you may not be automatically, the changes, just don't happen like that. It could take time. And then the other thing is storing up resentment after cancer treatment, is that if you're not able to communicate your need or your feelings or what's happening to you, it can mean storing up resentments, storing up frustrations, about what's happening around you, about family. And if this carries on for years, you can imagine it's going to affect your mental health. It's going to affect everything about you. Yes, cancer may, you may have finished your cancer treatment and you may have been given the all clear, but then other things are beginning to set in, which is not healthy for you. And the other things about, the other point is, there's been a lot of changes. Your personality has changed, your body has changed, you know, and it can affect every aspect of your life as well as your friendship. It affects your relationship. So important, you know. So with all of this, what do you then do? With all of this, so you, after cancer, these feelings, these emotions, these thoughts are running through you. You're experiencing, grief. You're having feelings of loss. We've talked about how you can start to begin to think about what you're thinking about. Begin to write them down. Have a thought diary. Look at your relationships. Give yourself space. Look at the expectations that you have for yourself, expectations that other people have about you. Identify that yes, roles have changed. You need to talk more. You need to have a way of, expressing these things healthily to people. Real identify that yes, you have changed. You're no longer that same person. Do you understand? So what do you do? It may be time to set goals for yourself. Set goals for yourself. As you put all of these things down, you write them down, begin to set goals for yourself. What do you want to do? So as you embrace the self-management approach, you begin to identify your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, and all the change you're experiencing. You need to set goals. You need to set goals. What do you want to achieve, from the self-management, approach that you have taken on? What's going to happen? So setting goals, they have to be smart goals. They have to be specific. They could be small, baby steps. It's very important that they are very specific and you know what goal you want to achieve. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. And they're measurable. You can actually look at it and say, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I've done. It can be measured. Do you understand? And then, the other, the other point with the smart goals is they are achievable, they are relevant, they're relevant to what you want to do, they're relevant to the goal, and it has a time frame. It's time bound. It doesn't happen forever, So they have to be smart goals. Now, so in achieving this goal, what do you do? Um, right. So let's take an example so that I make it a lot more practical. So after all that you have done, you have identified, say for example, that okay, we just had a conversation on nutrition. You have identified that you need to change your lifestyle. You need to change your nutrition. That's a goal that you want to have for yourself. You want to start by changing your nutrition to a healthy lifestyle. You realize that, okay, maybe you have not been eating healthily. The food that you have been eating are the things that we've talked about. I would say stay away from. So that is a specific goal. Okay. Now it may even be very, very big. You can bring it and say, okay, I'm going to do away with, let's say, I'm going to take away saturated fats from my from my food. Let's start with something very, very small, very specific, to say I'm going to take away, um, let's say, eating of red meat. Okay, eating of red meat, or I'm going to reduce the amount of red meat that I eat. Okay, so that is a specific goal. So what are you going to do? You're going to reduce eating red meat. You're going to reduce the portions of red meat to proportionate portions. That's what you're going to do, because that's a specific goal. Well, that's good. That's what you're going to do. Now, time. When are you going to do this by? The truth is, if you don't set a time, it's very, very likely it will not be achieved. So let's say, by the end of August, okay? From August, I'm going to have meat 2 times a week. I'm going to have only red beef 2 times a week and proportionate portions. That's a specific goal. It may be small, but you know it's achievable. You know it's measurable. You have said it's going to be 2 times a week, you know, and you're going to start by the end of um, September or any other dates. You know, today is the third. You can say, okay, I'm going to give myself some time to do this. So 15th, okay, let's put the 15th of September. Okay, now resources. Resources. So in resources, we're looking at, what do I need to do? So we have set this goal. We know the time. What do I need to do to be able to, achieve this goal, to make it a smart goal? So ask yourself, what resources do you have, right? Which ones do you need to achieve the goal you have set for yourself? What are the So if you have, for example, if you have loads of meat, maybe you want to eat it up or you want to give it out to people, so that you are focused, so that there are no distractions. Or you don't even have meat at all, you want to eat, you want to go and buy meat. Maybe you need to, you know, prepare the meat in such a way that you have them in portions that allow you only to eat, you know, 2 times a week. You know, maybe you need to, uh, meal plan, you need to prep. Um, Maybe you even need to write, I don't know, other thing that you think that you need for yourself, your resources. There will be no distractions and all of that. So prepare yourself, resource, and get ready. And then barriers. What is likely to get in your way? What is likely to get in your way? So, what is likely to get in your way of you eating proportionate portions of beef 2 times a week, so that you're not eating too much meat? But then you also have red meat, because red meat also has its advantages. Now, what are the barriers? Maybe you're someone who has a lot of friends, family around, and they cook these things. When you begin to identify what your barriers may not be my own barrier. You begin to identify those barriers. You can begin to see how to push through the barrier. Or are you someone who goes to a lot of, who eats out a lot, or go to a lot of parties, and you need to identify your barriers. You may also want to talk to other people around you to keep you accountable, to keep an eye on you, to support you, so that you're not alone in the journey. And yes, so that will really, make it helpful for you to achieve your goals. So you know that you are, on a mission. You have goals that you have set and that you're going to achieve. So having done that, what next? What next? So you have, looked at self managing yourself. You know that you have finished your treatment. A lot of things are going on with you. You're beginning to identify them. You're beginning to write them down. You're recognizing what's happening. um, and all that we've talked about, expectations and all of that. you're recognizing, you're aware, and you know you're beginning to look at what you can do about them, and you're setting goals for yourself. So what next? I would say be kind to yourself and give yourself time. These things don't happen just like that. There may be days when there may be bad days, there may be good days. Give yourself time. If there are bad days, just give yourself time, pick up yourself again, and start all over. And rather than taking huge, steps and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do small steps. Like I said, just looking at eating proportionate portions of beef, just small, steady steps, small, steady changes, uh, and make phenomenal changes. Like I said, like they say that little drops of water make a mighty ocean. If you take huge steps, you might get overwhelmed, you might get discouraged, but just small, steady changes um, for your goals, and then keep at it and surround yourself with loved ones. Yourself with people who will support you. Reach out to trusted support services, that are out there. There's Macmillan. There are whole lots of them. If anyone is interested in knowing more, support services, reach out to me and I can send you more information. And that is what we do here at Arise from the Ashes, to support one another, to hold each other hand as as you go through this cancer journey, and to bring you to, another season of life with hope. That I have been through, and that is why I am doing, we're doing what we're doing now to encourage a lot of people. And I would say again, particularly in our Black, African community, we need to, we need to continue to inform ourselves, continue to educate ourselves. And I just want to say thank you very much to everyone for listening to me, for watching this. And I would ask again that if you know anyone who may need this, please share with them. It's a season of us learning and unlearning, creating that awareness that things, may be different with us. Thank you so, so much. Right. I'm going to stop sharing now. And okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing now. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming on this journey with us for in the last 2 days. This is the last session. I am so delighted. I am so happy we've come to the end of Arise from the Ashes Summit 2021. It's been wonderful. Just before I go, I'm just going to say that Arise from the Ashes has a Facebook community network. Now, if you are going through, or you know someone who is on this journey and wants support, and wants a platform where they can, learn more. We share a lot about most of what we've talked about, survivor stories, um, nutrition, exercise, different things that, on cancer and related issue. It's a very calm environment. You can just sit, you can be there and listen. Although we ask for, we ask for you to engage with us. But if anyone wants to join, please reach out to me and I'll send you the link. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm just going to close the curtain on Arise from the Ashes Summit 2021. Thank you, everyone, and God bless you. Bye for now.